Hello and welcome everyone to this week's episode of DoubleDM podcast, where we talk about curses, detrimental effects, madnesses, and every other little negative effect you can basically put on your players to give them another level of challenge or to mess with them. We will talk about that after our recap, obviously. Let me ask the question first. Niels, how are you doing today?
I am doing great. It was an amazing day. What else can I say?
Why was it amazing?
We had an amazing recording with an amazing guest.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. And yeah, just could sleep well. Going to a birthday right after this. So the weather is great. What else can I wish for, right?
Nothing really. Sounds like a great day for you.
Yeah. How about you?
Oh, well, my day is very chill. Yesterday I had a big work presentation.
Mm-hmm. How did it go?
Well, it went well, given the circumstances of everything, right? The project is nearly finished or was nearly finished. Then we presented it to the people that were like the people that are going to use the thing. And they were like, okay, well, we need these adjustments. We need this thing. What about this thing? How can we change that and stuff like that, right? They had a lot of questions and a lot of remarks, which is okay because, right, I only get paid to do the thing. So I will do the thing no matter what I've been told. But yeah, they really liked what we presented to them. They think it is great, but they also think that when we now add the extra features that they asked, on top of that it's actually gonna be the improving thing that they want from it. But without what we've just done before now, it wouldn't have worked. We needed an interface and we needed the program to actually work beforehand. And we basically presented the workable interface that does the thing that they are doing currently in a more condensed way. But now we're basically on the path of improving the current way so that it is easier to use. That also means that I basically today, on Friday, we are recording on the 11th, I have nothing to do because my work presentation was yesterday. I took a day off, more or less. I can choose my own hours, but I took a day off today and have to then start on Monday with the last 3 weeks of this project. Or at least hopefully 3 weeks. It's going to be probably more than 3. But in those 3 weeks, I'm going to do the big things that we still need to do. And yeah.
Alrighty. But hey, yeah, having a chill day and taking one for yourself is important. Remember that rest is important, people. Because if you don't, not fun. Not fun.
Not fun.
I can speak of experience because last week I had to, or I was forced to take some time off because I didn't take a rest when I needed one and was just sick all week. And remember, take your rests if you need one. Hey,
life
TTRPGs.
Advice with Niels. Life advice with Niels.
Thanks for coming to my TED Talk or something along those lines. Yeah, but since we are a TTRPG podcast, did anything TTRPG related happen in your week?
Well, yes. One was my Tyranny of Dragons session on Tuesday, where my players are still trying to find a way to cure one of the players of his Warlock pact, or sever that pact at least, and have continued traveling on the Silver Dragon Elia from the Tyranny of Dragons module to a place where they could do that.
Alrighty.
They've reached the beginning of the path to the end, as it's been called, of that. So now they have to basically go through a few challenges to reach basically a god's domain where they could ask the god to please sever this pact for us. And if they succeed on those challenges, the god is probably gonna grant them that. If they don't fuck up, at least. It was a roleplay heavy session with my players basically just role-playing the travel, talking, and also exploding into NPCs' faces because those NPCs said stuff that the characters didn't like. For example, they have 2 clerics or 2 priests with them, a high priest and her apprentice, that are basically talking, the typical our goddess watches us, blah, 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 holy talk. And one of the player characters is very much vocal about how shitty everything is currently in the situation, and also how shitty these 2 priests are making it extra because they're annoying as fuck. And
that's a good combination.
Kind of trying to convert their friend to a new faith. To be fair, they are not necessarily trying to convert him, but they're definitely trying to teach him. Because in their eyes, he has been chosen for something.
Okay.
And he obviously needs to know the basics before standing in front of a holy temple. So, yeah. But the thing about that version of Saloon in our setting is right? She is the goddess of acceptance and tolerance as well, and providing care and safety to everyone, regardless of who they are. This priestess couldn't go, yeah, fuck you, right? No, she was like, I understand that you're upset with what I do. Trust me that my goddess also shines her light on you, and that.
Or let me tell you, if something like that happened.
Wait. And that made the player obviously explode even harder because...
Yeah. I was just about to say, if something like that happened to me, if I was really angry at someone and they were just like, okay, yeah, I can understand that. Sure. I would just fucking implode. No. If I'm angry, I want to be angry and I want someone else to be angry at me or with me or whatever the fuck, right? I want to scream and yell fuck overall.
Like the thing is, the best technique to disarm someone when they're angry is to not encourage them to be angry, right?
Exactly.
It sounds so easy, but it's so hard when someone screams at you and you just have to compose yourself and go, okay, understand. It's okay. I'm not going to scream at you because you deserve to be angry. You have a right to be. Now let's help me fix it, right? It's so disarming, but it can be so disarming in a way of, okay, thank you for helping me. And also, what the fuck do you think you are?
Yeah.
And this priestess, right? This priestess just said what she thinks what in her faith was right, but wasn't in a place to basically comfort this character while they were angry.
Yep.
So yeah, that was fun.
I can feel that.
I also had a session yesterday where we didn't quite fail our stealth, where we didn't fail the stealth session.
Okay.
Well, somewhat. To be fair, the group got split. One of us went up the tower, the rest of us went down to the base of the tower again. The one that went up had to climb outside the tower to the top of the tower and found a spider. Now, that spider was bigger than any usual spiders you would find in your usual homes, except if you're living in Australia, maybe.
Obviously.
But it also had 9 eyes.
Okay, that's weird.
So he was startled, scared, realized that there are even more people around him right now and that he needs to be really careful with what he does. And then he failed the stealth check. Fell down the tower, or at least dropped something down the tower. People woke up. The other 3, us, got caught because he caught... We had our way out of this, basically saying, we're the pest control. We're here for your rat problem. It somehow worked, and we did then solve their rat problem. And that's why I'm saying we didn't quite succeed, but also definitely didn't fail because we didn't get caught necessarily.
Yeah, you failed the stealth, but didn't fail the stealth. Love it.
We got what we wanted, more or less at least. Some information, very important information, was left behind by the person that was actually caught in the beginning by the spider because he didn't deem it important. But it was the information we were after when we infiltrated the temple at the end.
Okay.
But that happens when you're suddenly split from the party, from the person that knows what we're looking for.
Yeah, and especially if you're in a pressured or situation or in a situation where you didn't imagine yourself to be in, then sometimes shit just got lost or gets lost. Happens.
It was a very fun session, but it also gave me a lot to think about general stealthing in TTRPGs and games, which I have to mull over a bit. But I think that's an interesting topic we can at some point tackle.
Yeah, most definitely.
But now let me throw the question back. Anything happening or happened for you with TTRPGs this week?
Both, actually. Something is happening. We are having an amazing session, hopefully, on Sunday. We too. Can't wait. It's amazing, or it will be. And I had a session on Tuesday with my usual group, but one player was on vacation that week, so we didn't further our one of our 3 campaigns we are currently running. We now decided, by the way, that we switch every month rather than every 2 weeks through the campaign, so we can experience a bit more of our characters and the story itself and immerse ourselves better because we are just more immersed in the story or in the characters when we get to play them more times after another, and then having bigger chunks and having more, we all have more fun that way. But yeah, one of our players was missing, so we played a different system just to try it. And
what
it
system?
Was Aegon, actually. We tried Aegon, and it was a lot of fun. But we all were just so mentally spent on that day. It was just basically it was on the back burner playing this game rather than us just talking weird shit and making weird puns all the time because hell yeah, right? Just one bad pun after another. I can't and I don't want to remember. I just want to remember that it was a lot of fun.
I don't want you to name these puns on the podcast anyway.
No. But we all just had an amazing night and laughed all the way through. So it was perfect for what we were trying to do.
Yeah.
Kill some time, enjoy our company, and just have a fun time.
No, sometimes that's all TTRPGs need to be, right?
Exactly. But that was my week. Nothing else?
A lot of Baldur's Gate. Gate.
Yes.
Let me ask you, how far are you currently in your playthrough?
I am in Act 2 for, I think, about 3 to 4 hours in my playthrough.
Okay.
Something I don't want to spoil any or too much.
I mean, I think you can name at least locations.
I've been just started exploring beyond the area beyond the tall house. Just scouring there and having revealed most of the map on the other side. But
exploring first, then doing the quest and the locations. Exactly. Yeah. I know it.
Explore, get the side quests, do the side quests, then main quest. This is the way for every role-playing game that I ever play. Yeah. How about you? Where are you?
I just entered Act 3 or have been exploring for the last 5-6 hours Act 3.
Oh, damn. Okay.
I don't want to spoil too much, just as you did with Act 2, but yeah. Act 3 is really upping the ante.
Okay.
I haven't reached Baldur's Gate yet.
Okay. I'm just so enamored with the amount of content that there is in this game. I've in my main run, I think I'm about 30 to 40 hours in, 30 something, and everything that I did was something new, or at least there was something to see, to do, to explore, to get, or to witness.
Yeah.
And that is something that I haven't had in a long time, since I think the last game that I played that had that wasn't as repetitive was Elden Ring for me.
I never played Elden Ring, to be fair. I still want to play it.
It's an amazing game. I can totally recommend it.
Don't worry, I know.
The world is way bigger and a bit emptier, you could say, but because the focus is on something completely different. That's the main reason for that. And let me tell you, I have never seen a game with a better hit rate than Elden Ring. It is truly amazing. If you if you do an emote where your character is out of the way of the projectile, you definitely dodge it, even if it's just by a few pixels, which is unheard of for me from most games, because if you press an emote, your hitbox is still where it is, but not where your character model is. And in an Elden Ring, it isn't like that. It's where your model is your hitbox, basically to the pixel. Amazing stuff. But yeah, awesome. Can't wait to explore more in Baldur's Gate, in Elden Ring, or whatever, right? Amazing. Video games are fun.
Video games are a lot of fun. I think with that, we can jump into our episode on curses and detrimental effects, so you out there can mess with your players in a more fun way. See you after our break. Hey listener, how are you enjoying the show so far? Tell us about it in whatever way you see fit. Go to our social media pages and add us or DM us about your favorite episode of the show. We would love to hear from you on what impact our show might have had on your home games. Or you could review us on your podcast app of choice and leave us a nice message with a 5-star review. And if you want to go above and beyond, bring a friend into the fold. Tell them about our show and refer us to them so they can get a piece of the pie as well. Thank you for listening to DoubleDM and joining us on this incredible journey.
So, Emil,
yes.
Last Tuesday, I had a session of one of my campaigns. In that campaign, one player is playing as a blood hunter, or Order of the Lycan blood hunter. And as per usual, they obviously encountered in some way a werewolf fight. And another player in that party was bitten by one of the werewolves and didn't make their save. So now I have 2 people cursed with lycanthropy in some way. And my party just didn't care about that. They just said, okay, yeah, cool, you're a lycan now as well. Gotcha. Anyways, next. And that's something that I wanted to talk to you a bit about today. Not necessarily lycanthropy, but detrimental effects in general, like curses, madnesses, and all of that stuff. And how it can affect your party, your players, your campaign, how it may change or may not change change the outcome or the idea of the whole campaign itself. So do you have any experiences with curses, detrimental effects, and all of that in your games?
Yes, obviously. I think everyone that has played TTRPGs for like a year and a half has experienced either giving a player a curse, having experiences with curse energy. It's such a generalized, fun media, especially fantasy trope, that it's just very hard to not have. When you look at games like D&D, Pathfinder, The Dark Eye, basically all big fantasy TTRPGs, I am sure that all of them have rules for curses, or have somewhere buried in their rules curses, either in the adventures that they've put out or in the rules or somewhere. Why? Because curses are just fucking cool to most people. And I mean, I understand. Curses are just really fucking cool as a device to use for TTRPG play, for generalized media, for anything. Because what makes a curse is, I think, the first question that you could ask when you want to talk about it in a media literacy sense or something. What is a curse?
Well, okay. Caught me off guard there. Didn't expect that question. I would say I don't have any definition or anything right now, but I would say a persistent and constant effect, not necessarily always felt, but is still always there. And in most cases is detrimental in some way, but doesn't always have to be. It's a vague thing, but that's...
I feel a curse is... Like, the fun thing about curses is, for me, in my understanding, a curse is more or less a wish, but with the special idea that it's a constant, detrimental thing that happens to someone else. It's something that is supposed to, in plain terms, fuck up their life.
Yeah.
It's a spell that is put on someone because they're a fucking asshole and they deserve to never have fitting shoes again, or they deserve to always smell like shit. Both of those are curses. But I think especially when we now are looking at games, like even video games or TTRPGs, curses obviously aren't just, you never find the right fitting shoes. They can be a lot more. They could also just be, you never find the right fitting shoes. But just generally, a curse is something that affects a person in some kind of detrimental way that is not necessarily that easy to get rid of.
Yeah, I think that's an important part, the not easy to get rid of thing. Because if you're able to just remove any detrimental effect easily, why wouldn't you? Right? But in the case of curses, most people in TTRPGs, or most NPCs, most player characters, especially at lower levels, have to learn how to live with that detrimental effect for a certain period of time before they can find someone who can remove the curse or remove the curse themselves. Because at lower levels or at lower power levels or whatever, they don't have the capacity to remove that themselves.
Yeah.
Or the money to hire someone who has the capacity to do so. And that just makes it fun, because now player has to rethink a bit about how to play the character, or in a way how to deal with the constant object on his back now, or on their back now.
Yes. I think that's taking a few steps away from the equation, basically, to jump to that at this point. I think, as we already said, a curse is something detrimental that is constantly there, not easy to get rid of. It's somewhat supernatural as well. When you haven't showered for 3 days and you are stinky, that's not a curse. That's something you can easily get rid of. It's not supernatural. Just go take a fucking shower. But if for some reason a witch has cursed you to never be able to smell good again, that's not something that you can get easily rid of by a shower. There's something more to that. I think that's just kind of the fun when it comes to TTRPGs and general media, why curses are something that is so fun to people. Because it's something that's not easy to get rid of. It somewhat plays into the fantasy of supernatural reality. There's a higher power that, be it magic, be it a god, be it a demon, whatever, makes sure that this is enforced. That's just fun. But I'm gonna say something real quick up front when we're talking about curses. Curses have a very big cultural impact behind them.
Yeah.
They're a cultural thing. Curses are part of every kind of culture that believes in gods They are part of every religion, and they differ wildly among them. And when you put curses in your games, please be aware where the inspiration of that curse, for example, comes from. I'm not here to say you're not allowed to put curses in your games because that's cultural appropriation, because per se it isn't, but it could become that. Because curses are a part of different cultures. Different cultures have different understandings of curses, and you need to be aware of that. You just need to watch out for, as with a lot of things, when doing your TTRPG, even if it's for a home table, that you are aware of where the inspiration that you have comes from. That goes for curses as well, especially because they're detrimental effects. The curses are a negative thing for most people. And when they're a negative thing, we often look down on them as something, that's disgusting. And that's bad and stuff like that. And with that, you need to watch out to not appropriating the culture of someone. Like, you just need to watch out for where the inspiration comes from. And because curses are detrimental, I think that you should be very careful with them, because you can't just go around saying this is all bad. And it's just something I wanted to put out there, because curses come from real world cultures, real world religions, real world people and their beliefs. And that just always means that while, yes, the idea itself can be used freely for your games, watch out what you do with the idea. Especially, right, because real world religion, real world cultures can be a sensitive topic for some people. Because they don't want their own culture misrepresented in your game, and we can just do that without the appropriation. You don't have to rip off some kind of culture to make yours interesting. You can take inspiration and stuff like that, obviously, but just be mindful, especially when the things are negative, which curses are, as we said. Curses are negative. Be aware of that.
Yeah, and what I like to do with curses, I really enjoy using them in general, but I like to not necessarily instantly put it on a character. I like to curse my items that I give out to my players, because then they have to weigh if they want to use that item, because it's a powerful magical means to achieve one of their goals, but receive that detrimental effect in change, or don't. And that's one part that I really enjoy using with my players, because once I made a cursed magic item that enhanced or altered the wild shape of a druid in some way. At first they could wild shape as normal, but as soon as they tuned to that magical locket, that curse spread to from the locket to the character and corrupted their wild shape. How in whatever thing they then transformed, it was all just thorny and bones sticking out everywhere, basically making it a horror creature. So you couldn't just scam any horse trader by transforming into a horse, selling the druid, then transforming into a flea and just bolting, because now the horse had a bone crown that wouldn't sell very well with a normal horse trader. And that's these are fun things that I like to do. Yeah, the effects of this curse can be positive, but they have negative side effects that are constant and cannot be altered. But it gives you something in return to that, basically.
Yeah, but I think that's fun to think about, because a curse is what we said already, some kind of effect that is put on you that you can't get rid of so easily, at least. Now, that's fun because it's basically a challenge to the player. This is how your life now is. This is a new condition to your life. You have to deal with that. And it can be positive by being a thing that, for example, like with this wild shape, the wild shape changed. First of all, it sounds fucking metal. Like I would feel so awesome. Fucking cool as a druid when that happens. At the same time, I would think about, okay, now who is my druid and how do they see it? I might find it very fucking amazing to have bones sticking out of my wild shape, but my druid is about protecting and caring for nature. This curse is literally perverting what I stand for. This is not a condition they can live with as my druid, for example. They need this to change. And I think that's the fun thing with curses. It's a condition that is, by the person that spoke it or the person that cast it, meant to be somewhat detrimental. Yeah. But it's still on the person that has been cursed to deal with the thing. It's not basically, a curse is not a damage spell. It's not supposed to, like, if you hate a person that much, you kill them. It's just a condition that this character has to deal with. And I think that's the fun part of it. You basically alter something about the way this character plays, this way this character feels, this way this character is looking, whatever, and then say, now that's your problem. Deal with it. Learn to live with it. Try to get rid of it. Whatever. But I think with that, I have to ask, was the curse also mechanical in nature or only roleplay in nature?
It also had a mechanical aspect. It added some features to the wild shape, like dealing necrotic damage and shit, and sapping life out of everything in around them, either party or.
But was it only beneficial in mechanics, in a mechanics value?
Not really, because no matter what standard or stood next to that druid in wild shape, got just their life force sucked out of. Being it party, wildlife, enemies. The curse didn't give a shit. They just sucked on life force. And if got some temporary HP for the wild shape, and if that wasn't depleted, it just damaged the wild shape itself, because then the temporary HP could be used on a hit as a wild shape to deal extra damage. But if it didn't, it just damaged the druid itself, but below the wild shape HP. So the direct hit through the overheal of wild shape and blah blah blah. It was a bit complicated, but I also added a way and a thing that if they wanted to remove and fight this curse, that then this thing later transformed into a blessing kind of situation.
I think that's amazing. Sorry that I am interrupting you, but that's amazing. It shows exactly what I think is so fun about curses. At the beginning, it might be cool, but it's detrimental at first, basically. If you find a way to live with it, and if you find a way to make it your own, it becomes a blessing. It doesn't stay a curse. And that's just fucking cool. It's just something that I think in general with these detrimental effects, with conditions, with curses, with whatever the opposite of boons is, probably curses, it's just fun to hand them out in play and add basically another layer of challenge to everything. And the way you add them is they're not necessarily a challenge like, oh, there's an enemy standing in your way, you have to fight him. It's a lot more open with these detrimental effects that you put on the specific player and say, so that is now a thing. Now let me not focus on that at all anymore. Because that's how I deal with those things most of the time. Yep. I put them onto the player. I give them that node. I give them the detrimental effect and say, your problem, not mine. So, about that demon king that is coming to town in 3 days. And the player goes, hey, GM, I have this curse. And I'm like, yeah, what do you do about it? There are two sides to it, right? I asked you, roleplay or mechanical, or both.
Curses can be both, and that's the amazing thing.
Exactly. But I think the thing is that curses are so fun in TTRPGs because they are roleplay. Not because they are mechanical effects, like a -5 to every perception check because your eyes are getting blinded or something. By this
or turned
curse.
Into crystals.
Or turned into crystals. Whatever. The thing is that they're so fun because they change your character. And a change in character is an amazing prompt to deal with. However you engage with TTRPGs, be it you're one of the very high roleplay players that wants to roleplay for 3 hours straight, that's something a curse can do, can prompt you to play 3 hours of my life is falling apart. I cannot see anymore. We need someone to help me, people. Or they're just mechanical. But even if you're more of the mechanical gamer, which isn't a bad thing, they are also detrimental in that aspect when you have a mechanical aspect to them. And they also still then change how you approach the game. They're a complete 180 for you as the one person that is cursed.
Exactly.
That's amazing. That's like we did a few episodes on challenges, right? Challenging people. Especially, for example, the most recent one on challenging high-level player characters. A curse is amazing as long as they can't deal with it. And that's my one big problem with D&D. Like, I have so many problems with D&D. But remove curse is a 3rd level spell. I wish that D&D or any fantasy TTRPG had a real curse system. Like where they are divided into spells and curses. And curses are something different. They're not spells. They're wishes. I want this person to have their eyes turn into crystals over time. That is a curse. That is not a spell that you cast. That's asking someone with power to do it for you.
Or can be a perversion of your own wishes. as well.
Yeah.
Depending on who you wish this towards. If you're bidding a demon lord or whatever to get the strength that you need to conquer blah or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then your own wish for strength and power perverts into this curse that now you can't stop fighting, or everything you do is just like a bit in 40K, the Chaos Gods, that they are a perversion of virtues in some way.
Yeah.
Something along those lines can happen with a curse, or could happen with the curse, as a perversion of your own wishes and ambitions.
Okay, let's focus on that. Because now we're getting into the part of how to make curses. And I think the first thing about a curse is, once again, coming back to the definition that we talked about in the beginning, a curse is supposed to be detrimental to the person that is cursed. It is not supposed to be a generalized thing. So with what you just said is, it's a perversion of your own wishes. It's a perversion of what you are. Yeah. That's what a curse is, at least in the extreme. Obviously, it can also be a smaller thing, right? Not being able to smell good anymore. But if your character is literally, I don't know, a high society nobleman that cannot smell good, that is going to be detrimental to who you are as a person. And that's why curses are fun, because they're personalized.
Yep.
They're personalized detrimental effects, most of the time at least. At least the more fun curses are personalized things where you go, well, this is going to be fucking awful for you.
Deal with it now.
The fighter gets a cursed sword that forces him to, right, like one of the most basic tropes is the cursed sword that inflicts its own bloodlust on the wielder, making them an unstoppable killing machine that is unable to distinguish between friend and foe. Very basic. But to a fighter that is, for example, a veteran supposed to protect others, that is the worst thing that could happen to them. And that is the thing. A curse is so much fun when you grasp a character in their essence and then pervert that essence. Now, thing that needs to be said here, curses should be part of session 0, or at least talking about this generalized thing. Because when I take a character's essence and pervert it, that could lead to the player not enjoying the character anymore, because I destroyed the character concept so much that it's just unfun. We don't want that. We want to make this person conflicted. We want this person to be saddened with their new condition. We don't want the player to go, this is not fun anymore, I'm leaving, or I need a new character, because then we overshot the goal entirely. We want to go into that direction of having the feeling of, oh, this sucks, because that's what the curse is supposed to do, or what a detrimental effect is supposed to do. But we can clearly overshoot the goal here, and you should watch out for it. Because what I ask in session 0s is, how okay are you with me changing your own character's concept as an in-game effect that happens because you took a choice or something? Like, for example, in the Cyberpunk game, obviously Cyberpunk doesn't have supernatural curses because there is no magic, but there is cyberware. And for example, one of the things that was heavily discussed in our session 0 was unconsented body modifications. That's on paper and in reality a terrible thing to happen, but it's something that I could do as a GM, theoretically. We agreed to not do it, but it would be the most cyberpunky thing that could be a curse. Something that the character doesn't want, that is done to them, that they can't change now. And I hope people realize that that's a terrible thing to happen to the character, and you need to watch out to not overstep any boundaries. But since this is literally perverting the character concept a bit, you need to be really fucking careful. Like, for example, I put a cursed weapon into my game that would turn you into a vampire if you have been attuned to it for over 100 days. Now, that is not necessarily a big problem, because first of all, the timing is a very long time on it, but also I had to watch out to, what does it mean for a character to be a vampire? Like, they're an adventurer that goes out of the tavern at daylight. No, they can't anymore. They're a vampire. It literally destroys the character in 100 days, more or less, if the player doesn't deal with it. And again, that's because I know my players are fine with it. If I didn't know my players would be fine with this change to their character, I wouldn't do it. You need to be really fucking knowledgeable about what you can do to make curses fun. Because otherwise they're just a fuck you. Your character has a -5 to perception, even though you specifically built a character that has a high perception. That's not fun, at least as long as the player didn't agree to it because it literally rips their character sheet apart.
In my groups or in my main group, where we talked about it obviously beforehand, before the other player got cursed, because it was a new addition to the campaign. We didn't start with that player, but I had a mini session or a complete session 0 with that character with that player beforehand, and we talked about it. And I told them, yeah, hey, we have one lycanthrope in the party, so curses could be a thing. Is that okay for you? If not, then I'll use curses anywhere, everywhere else but you, or whatever, right? Just talking about it. And they were like, yeah, curses are fine. Change whatever you like, but I want there should be a way to circumvent that or to get rid of it or to change it. And I think this is an important part. I would argue the same way.
Yeah.
My characters, I'm totally fine if my characters are being cursed, changed in the essence or whatever, as long as it's not unrevertible, unchangeable. As long as there is a way that you can remove the curse in one way or another, I am totally fine. As long as it's just a temporary thing, I'm totally fine with it. Or potentially temporary. As long as there is a way that I can fix, in quotation mark, or fix my character concept in-game, I'm totally fine with it. But that's just, and I can understand if someone isn't fine with a change in their character concept, even though it might just be temporary. And yeah, that's something that you have to look out for when using curses, madnesses, or any other detrimental effect. As long as it's not 100% permanent and, oh, you got it, cool, yeah, now you're stuck with it forever. I think this is an important part of, like we discussed in the beginning with curses, they are not easy to get rid of, but you're able to get rid of them in theory. And I think this is something that you have to talk about and have to keep in mind.
Yeah, I think this is important to play with curses, right? First of all, a curse should be a detrimental thing that shouldn't be destroying everything the player wanted, but should be detrimental to the character. And at the same time, I think a curse is only fun if there is a way to deal with them. Like, because otherwise it's just there. Basically telling someone, okay, that thing that destroys your character concept, by the way, yeah, there's no way to deal with it. How unfun is that? Like, the fun of a curse doesn't come from it being detrimental. The fun comes from the journey of getting rid of it.
Yes.
The fun of something always comes in TTRPGs from engaging with it. You need to give the player a way to engage with a curse, with a detrimental effect, because otherwise it is just there and happens. They have no way of dealing with it. They just have to accept it. And let's just be honest, that's no fun. Like, it's way more fun if the player says, no, I reject this curse. I want it to be gone, and I will fight for it to be gone. By the way, same way, other way around, when all of the other players say, hey, your cursed sword that is kind of turning you into an evil blood-killing machine, we want it gone. And you go, no, I'm fighting for the sword because it gives me strength. I am fighting for this curse to stay with me. It's just as fun. But both of them only work if there is a way to get rid of the thing. If there is none, that's no fun. And I think that's why, for example, the remove curse spell in D&D is kind of necessary. I just think it's way too accessible. Fun thing, in my Sunday session recently, I had my players travel to a region that was currently under a lot of distress because 2 counties were fighting over this region. And from one county, there came a lot of soldiers that took away taxes, right? You belong to us, we take the taxes. And they took from one person that has an amulet that was keeping their curse in, so they didn't transform into a blood-hungry monster every night. They took that thing as payment, unleashing the bloodlust monster. And now we can talk about what my players did to solve that problem because, oh boy, but there was a curse. And my players looked at the thing and said, we were level 11 or level 10 at this point. Our paladin casts remove curse, period. The thing about, for example, lycanthropy curse is if you're born with it, it can only be gotten rid with a wish spell. If you're inflicted with it, a remove curse spell is enough. Now that is a fun distinction. If this is something that you've been living your whole life with, a remove curse spell isn't enough to take this away from you. And my players obviously weren't able to cast wish because they do not have a full caster in the party anyway. They will never be able to cast the wish spell.
Okay.
they had no way of dealing with this curse on let's just get rid of it level. They had to find a different way. And that was more fun than just saying, yeah, your remove curse spell works. The spell is needed because otherwise curses are just there and you have no way of dealing with them without a wish spell. And that's no fun as well. But at the same time, I kind of want there to be a way to get rid of this thing rather easily in some instances, and in some instances I don't, which is a kind of double standard, I will admit, which might not be necessarily a good thing to have as a GM. When you go, the few curses that I want you to get rid of, you can get rid of, but the few curses I don't want you to get rid of, you can't get rid of, is kind of arbitrary and bad, and I will admit that.
Yeah, but the thing is, with curses, it's not a black and white topic.
I want the thing to take effect, and if it's so easy to get rid of the thing, I don't like it. But that could be, again, just the way D&D works, and the remove curse spell will work on every curse where it says the remove curse spell removes this curse, or at least on every spell where it doesn't say you need a wish spell to cast this, because this is what the spell is supposed to do. If my players prepare it or take it as a spell, they should be getting their value out of it.
Yeah.
But I just had the loophole of this person was born with it. You cannot get rid of it with a remove curse spell. You need a wish spell for that. Or get the curse amulet back, by the way, right? I've gave them an idea of what to do to get rid of the curse, or at least contain it.
Yeah, and I think this is, it's not even a double standard from your part, because curses are a complicated thing in general.
I firmly believe it is a double standard, because it's my arbitrary decision on what my players can do with a spell and not.
Yeah.
That's just not the way it's supposed to work, I'm gonna be honest. You as a GM should be consistent in your rulings.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. The consistency should be, like in my opinion, it's okay to sometimes bend the rules and say, yeah, that works, or yeah, that doesn't work, because this would be more fun. But you should be consistent in that, and at least the general idea behind it.
Yeah.
This is for more, this way we will all have more fun. Like, close that chapter, because I don't think there's really anything that I can say either to defend or not defend. The point is, it's hard when the remove curse spell is like a level 2 or level 3 spell. And sometimes that's just the way it is. And if your players come against the curse and they have the spell prepared, let them use it, because that's what the spell is supposed to do. But also at the same time, there are enough loopholes that you can use. It's just the way of making them upfront and not being shitty about it or shady. This spell cannot be removed by a remove curse spell. It can only be contained for a day or something. You need to find a different way to deal with it. That can be fun, yes. If that's what your table wants, do it. But at the same time, I don't want to say to a player that has now taken the remove curse spell because they knew they were engaging with curses today, and then basically say, yeah, your choice was invalid because I say so. We all can see that literal saying just doesn't sound right. It's not fun to say, because I want to. Give the player something. Give the player a way to deal with the curse. That's all I will say.
And all of that just doesn't necessarily only goes for curses, but everything else also works for other detrimental effects that can affect any character.
Yeah.
Like, for example, madnesses are a big thing, especially in Cthulhu-esque cosmic horror shit.
You cannot get rid of those necessarily.
Yeah. Depends on what type of madness and how long, blah, 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 and what system you're using. But these can be so much fun as well if your table agrees to use them. I have I've backed a supplement for D&D recently that kind of adds a new moon and madness system to create more of go more into the direction of a Bloodborne-esque thing, or could be. There are different ways for characters to contract madnesses that last for a couple of days, a couple of weeks, for a couple of years, or whatever. And in correlation with the moon phases and different moons having different effects and different madnesses, and completely altering the way a party interact with the world itself through a madness or the moon or something along those lines. And I would consider them part of this topic as well. Not necessarily curses, but detrimental long-term effects that are there and have to be dealt with in some way. Can be a lot of fun as well. Just taking that inspiration, yeeting it into the party and saying, this is the situation, deal with it. I'm going to fuck off. I'm going to make a coffee. You decide how to deal with it. See you later.
Yeah, I think just attaching small little changes to everything is just fun. And most of them detrimental are more fun because, for example, we've talked about this in the dev episode. In my games, in my D&D games, resurrection works differently. Going back to the remove curse discussion that we just had, I don't want my players to take remove to take a resurrection spell and then not have it work. You will resurrect the person. The question is just because resurrection is such a cosmic breaking thing that happens, you might pull a detrimental effect with them. You might pull a curse with them. You might pull something with them. And this person that has been resurrected then might have another added fear of water. They cannot speak words with the letter Y in it or something. Like something small, a little bit annoying, honestly, because let's be honest, curses don't have to be that detrimental, or conditions don't have to be that detrimental and impactful. They can also just be fucking annoying.
A curse where your character always have one part of their sock being wet. Disgusting, but no real impact other than fuck, my sock is wet. Over and over and over again.
Unimpactful, but it's also just fucking annoying. And it's fun. It's a little jab basically of just, hey, your feet are cold every time. Oh, I hate that. Well, you have to deal with it. Period. Your character has that now. Oh, that's sad. Yeah, I know.
Find a way to get rid of it.
Find a way to get rid of it. Deal with it, or be annoyed by it. Yeah, I mean, it's just fun. You literally just have to look for ways to, like, as a GM, you're supposed to be a fan of your player characters and the players, right? You're supposed to be on their side most of the time. But being on their side also sometimes means for me to throw in something that they find annoying, unfun, or a little bit destructive. Because let's be fucking real, your job as a GM is also to be a chaos coordinator.
Yeah.
To throw in chaos wherever you see fit. A curse or a detrimental effect, a madness, is the perfect way to throw in chaos and shake up things. And this is the fun part of it. You want to throw these things in when you want to shake things up. Your players have been too comfortable in their own shoes for the last few sessions. Boom. A small little curse. It's not gonna hurt anyone, but it's gonna make for a very fun discussion at the campfire for these characters, or a fun realization in combat that, oh, suddenly my spells don't work exactly anymore. Oh shit, I can't control my firebolts anymore. Oh fuck, sorry, I dealt 500 damage to you or whatever. I mean, why not? It's a fun thing.
But you have to be careful.
You have to be very careful. Like the thing is, I think the formula, when I could give you one, and again, this is my personal opinion, do something different with your games if you think that's something different to be done. First of all, get to know the characters. If a player wants to start with a curse, that's their choice, not mine. But I want to get to know the characters first. Know what they are like. Know what they are doing. Know what they want. Know what they don't want. And then I can throw in these personalized detrimental effects and curses to hinder them on getting to their goals, on increasing the things that they can't do, or making it a little bit harder for them. But when I don't know the characters beforehand, I can't just throw something in, because the chance that I'm just gonna destroy the fun for this player, which we never want, is a little bit too high. Get a feeling first, just as with the real life, how people imagine witches casting curses. They know the victim, obviously, right? Ah, this pretty boy, I will curse him that he always has, I don't know, that he's always stinky, right?
That his inside of the palm always itches.
Because there is an understanding of what this person is, only that the detrimental effects even are working. Because otherwise, you give them something where they don't even realize they have a curse, because they never interact with the world in that way. You need to be detrimental to them if you want to give them a detrimental effect. Surprise, surprise. But for that, you need to know the character first. So as a GM, you do the same. Get to know the characters, then throw in the fun chaos jab. And then I think, personally, let it be. It's not your problem to deal with. You're not supposed to look out for the curse. For example, if your curse has a timer on it, like in a 100 days, you turn into a vampire, obviously look out for how many days it's been. Generally, it's on the player to deal with this. If they forget the curse, they forget the curse. If they want to deal with it, they will deal with it. And if they don't seem to care that much, well, it's not your responsibility to make sure that they deal with the curse that you put them on, even though you want them to deal with the curse maybe. But if they don't, you're just gonna increase the ante a bit. The curse is getting worse and worse and worse. At some point, they will deal with it if you really want them to deal with it. But generally, I'm more of a, just leave it alone. No one cares. You shouldn't care that much, because it's detrimental to them. And your world keeps on turning. Your adventure keeps on turning. The person personal challenges of your characters are somewhat your responsibility, yes, but most of the time it's also on the player and their character to watch out for what happens to them.
Exactly, because you're not alone at a table, you're always having your players, because otherwise you can't play. They are playing their character, so they should be considering what their player does, wants, can do, can't do, what effects are affecting them, and all of that. It's not 100% on you, because it's their character, not yours. And how they want to deal with a curse is always up to them and not you, because they might have different ways of engaging with that curse or that other detrimental effect or whatever, right? Some are saying, yeah, I'm going on a quest to find someone who can remove the curse. Or another one is just, yeah, I'm going to kill that person that cursed me and hopefully get rid of it that way or whatever. Because how they want to remove that or how they want to deal with that is completely up to the player and not you. You can't decide that.
And it's on them because at first, right, it's on them to decide how their character reacts to the curse anyway.
Exactly.
If you have a fighter that gets this bloodlust that's so normal in fantasy media, especially TTRPGs, by the way, so be it. If the player likes it and arguably can argue that the character would also like it, let them just have the curse. And at some point, you're gonna say, yeah, well, you forget who is your friend and your foe, so you strike the archer or the wizard next to you that is your friend or that was your friend. And the player goes, oh, well, maybe I played a little bit too much. I fucked around too much and now I find out. And funny thing, because I said fuck around and find out, curses are a great way to make your players find out if they fuck around too much.
Yep.
If they offend an evil witch too much, curse. If they offend an evil god or a normal god even just. If they offend a god, detrimental boon or something, curse. In a fantasy world, or even in a sci-fi world, the people that you offend are gonna come after you. And some of them are gonna do it in a direct way, and some of them are gonna do it in an indirect way. And the indirect way are these curses, these detrimental effects. And for example, detrimental effect in the cyberpunk world could also just be that your rocker boy that is supposed to be in the clubbing scene has offended a big club owner in some way. And this club owner is just going around telling all the other club owners to not hire you anymore. You can't find any work all of a sudden. That's not necessarily a curse, but it's definitely detrimental to your character.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, fuck around and you will find out. And curses are the perfect way for indirect find out. They're not combat, which is arguably the more easy and simple thing to do. Sometimes the indirect, long drawn out way of a curse or a detrimental effect is even more fun.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. They got to live with it more.
Yeah.
They find out the same amount, but over a longer period of time.
It's not quick and done. It takes time. It cultivates. And at some point they realize it, and it might be too late at that point.
Curses and detrimental effects are things that require dedication to deal with or to apply. And that is amazing.
Yes.
Because that shows whoever put this curse on you really wanted to. It's not a whoopsie daisy, I did that. Sorry about that. Can't do anything about it. It's planned. It's it was just not necessarily destined to be there to be that, but it was pre-written that this will happen because I wanted it to happen as the person who put the curse. They did their research, who, why, what, when, blah blah blah, and then decided on the method and executed it over a longer period of time rather than just 2 seconds. Whoops, sorry about that. Anyways, have fun living with that now. Amazing stuff. Love it. And with that, I don't have anything else. So with that, thanks for listening and see you on the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of DoubleDM. It appears you liked this one. What we had to say and our advice helped you. Why not show us how we helped you in a rating, or even write a review detailing us how we helped? You can do this on the platform that you are listening on right now. It's just a few clicks, doesn't take long, and helps us out. It gets us out there and our advice into more ears of more people. Thanks again for listening and joining us on this amazing journey. Have a great day and see you on the next one. Bye bye.